Jamie Sackville.
How are we?
Beautiful, like it never happened before that audio glitch. Welcome to the inaugural Ramble On podcast, mate. I'm very excited to have you on. I think I've done everything right. We shall find out. Good morning. It's nice and early over there.
Evening to you. Yeah, it's a little early here, but that's all right.
Yeah, awesome. So the idea behind this podcast, I just wanted to get people that I knew, guest speakers on that were in that have played sports, have been an athlete, but are also looking to build a business, be an entrepreneur of sorts, which I'm starting to dip the toe in now, and you're also dipping your toe in with a really fantastic app idea that you've been pitching me for a while and developing and hard at work at. Athletes in recruitment. All right, you got 4,486 followers as I looked just before. So any extra followers from this, I'm taking credit for. Tell us about it, mate.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a fun ride. So a little bit about me, probably before I get into it, is I born and raised in Melbourne, just like probably a lot of your listeners, and I was one of those kids where I always wanted to play pro footy and probably wasn't quite talented enough. And I kind of realized that at an early enough age where in my year 12 year, I actually decided that, hey, I'm not going to get drafted here. I've got a pretty big leg. I've always been a good kicker of the football, and what else can I do with my skill? And I found a program called Pro Kick Australia and said, oh, well, it's pretty cool that I can probably go and get a college scholarship just because I have a good left peg rather than, doing all the running that football asks you to do. And I decided, okay, let's have a crack at this, and found you helped me get my body right. And 12 months later, I was on a plane to Dallas, Texas, and
the Stang Gang.
The Stang Gang. And it was the wildest time of my life, to be honest. Loved it. It was the best decision I've ever made. And then fast forward 4 years, and I kind of had a first-hand view of what's going on in the world of college recruiting here in America, and saw a real niche in the market that I felt my skill set had the ability to take over. So essentially what we've created is a centralized recruiting platform for college athletics. Yep. So if you combine the concept of LinkedIn and you've got networking, and then you combine the concept of a dating app where the whole point is matching and trying to find partners in a romantic sense, we're doing it in the world of collegiate athletics.
So the athletes are the talent, and the coaches are the ones swiping through.
Exactly right. Yeah. So essentially what we're giving coaches the ability to do is filter and sort through talent and match accordingly based on what they want. And on the coaching and on the student side, we're essentially giving them the ability to promote their athletic resume. No different than anyone on LinkedIn trying to promote their professional resume to get a job or whatever it is that they're trying to do. So, I mean, for your listeners, the college scholarships here are worth, upwards of 100,000 Australian dollars every year. So
every
year, my school costs $70,000 US a year to go to. And I paid $0 for it. So
yeah, amazing.
It's pretty wild ride here.
Absolutely. I've actually got another athlete. You were the first athlete I had that. It was funny how we met, really, and a little bit of backstory for everyone. Our good friend Tommy Wilson, who I'm sure will be listening to this when it comes out. I approached him and said, "Oh, hey mate, I've heard a bit about you. I'd really like to coach you. Feel free to bring a friend down." This was back in 2015.
Yeah.
And the friend he brought down was a little 5'10" solid Jamie Sackville, and you pretty much come to me and gone, "I'm going to college. I'm going to be a punter." And I was like, I know nothing about college football. I've played Madden a couple times, but I really didn't know. All right, obviously he's got to be strong, he's got to be mobile, he's got to be fast, all these things. So I started really getting into football, and I think you're a massive influence for me, being now an absolute crazy American football fan. And I represent the SMU top here that you gave me.
Funny you say that, because I'm representing the good old
six. Absolutely. Well, you know what? It'll be a surprise later, but I was trying to set something else up, but it didn't quite work out. I've left it at my mum's, but it's an equally as good surprise. But the great thing was, I said to Tom, I said, "Oh, mate, I'm just a young up and coming coach. I want to get experience coaching elite athletes. I'll offer you my services, no charge until you go pro." Because I identified that this kid would probably go pro early. And Tom was off at the AAS and doing other things, so he couldn't take up my offer. And you've come up to me, you messaged me, and you go, "Give me the offer. I'll work hard for it." And I was like, "Oh, you know what? That takes balls. That's awesome." And I just go, "Yep, let's do it. How many times a week can you commit?" And you're like, "Every day." I was like, "Oh, well, all right. Let's go with 3-4 times a week." And you know what? You were there every week, and you were even busting me, going, "When are we training? When are we training?" I was like, "Oh, this guy's gonna go far. He's gonna go and he's gonna make it over there." And all right, why did you choose SMU? What was the big reason behind that?
Yeah, Tom was committed there.
That's right. Yeah.
I had no idea what SMU was, and then the reason that I even thought about going to America in the first place is because Tom and I went to Caulfield Grammar together before he went to the AIS, and he would have been in the 10th grade and already getting recruited by colleges for basketball. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I'll never forget it. I remember him like getting a phone call from like the Florida Gators in the 10th grade and sitting in like science class next to him and just being like, "Holy shit, like this is crazy." And that kind of sparked my like passion of like, oh, like, sure, like I'm not a basketballer, like I can't get recruited to do that, but like I want to get recruited in something else. That sounds
it's a little small for basketball.
Yeah, just a touch. And I probably don't have the handle, but yeah, I was just like, wow, like I want to do this. And then I found this program, and then I told my coaches, I was like, oh, my best friend just committed to go to SMU. And then not even 3 weeks later, they came back to me and said, "Hey, I think we got SMU on the phone. Do you want to go there?"
It's unreal. Like, and what's it like? Like we all know Texas from The Simpsons, the old Texan, the rich Texan, and like, what's being in Texas actually like? I've got a little representation here, a little cowboy hat, and there's y'all from Texas. Like, is that how they talk? What's living in Texas like for the last 4 years?
It's so different. But to be honest, I haven't had as big a culture shock as perhaps some other guys that come over, because Dallas is, I mean, you've been here and you've visited. Dallas is a very metropolitan city, not too dissimilar than what Melbourne is, if I'm being honest. Yeah. Like it's a thriving, it's a big business city. A lot of young business professionals, probably in their 20s, 30s, 40s. I was lucky that SMU's campus was 7 minutes away from really downtown.
Yeah, it's very central, isn't it? And
yeah,
a lot of the colleges that you would have played against, they're in the middle of nowhere. Like these are literally cities built on colleges. Like we went to one. We went to Kyle Field. It was 3.5 hours out of Dallas, and it was just a big ass stadium and a college.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I guess
that's the beautiful thing about what I think I've got here, because I had a pretty set criteria before coming over, and I was pretty like strict on it with like my coaches back home. And I said like it needed to be good academics. I wanted to play early, good weather, and I need to be in a city. Because a big thing for me is that the last thing I ever wanted to do would go to a college town where for 6 Saturdays a year it was the coolest place in the world, but you know, for every other day I was like, what can I do outside of the facility? And as you can probably tell now, and your listeners can probably tell, like I'm quite entrepreneurial minded, and I've got a lot of interest outside of just kicking a football. And I needed that outlet, and like I found it. I was very fortunate to have found it, like with my network that I've had here at SMU.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you give us a little insight to? I got some kind of scope of this over the last 4 years, because we've had endless conversations. But just for everyone else, what's it like being at college where you're playing a sport where you're getting on planes, private chartered planes to cities to play in front of 100,000+ people, but you're also studying full time. Like you've got massive commitments. It's almost like you're out of high school and bang, you've got a full-time job.
Yep, I would I would call it a job. I wouldn't call it. I think it comes with its bells and whistles. Don't get me wrong. Like depending on where you go, you get the fame and you get your Instagram followers and you get, the attention of fans and girls or whatever you're looking for. Like that's all there for you. Don't get me wrong. But my schedule, at least my freshman and my sophomore year, was you'd wake up at 5 and you wouldn't go to bed until 11 every single day. And for guys that are trying to play professional sports in Australia, like that's ridiculous when you think of it like that. Like sleep is so valued.
Oh, they wouldn't handle it.
Yeah, you wouldn't handle it. And guys in Australia that are playing pro sports aren't studying a full course load, as well as still having the same pressures of playing in front of 100,000 people on a Saturday. And also being an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid being like, hey, I want to go out with my friends because like that's a very real part of it. So the ability to kind of juggle social life, football, and your studies is no easy task. But in fairness to schools, they have a really strong like academic framework behind them, and they have tutors and counselors and all these things that you need. But still, if you're not on top of it, it can get the best of you.
What similarities can you parallel to the TV show Last Chance U? Like, I know it's very different. It's JUCO, but it gives us an insight into what you guys actually go through.
I don't envy any of the guys that ever go through Last Chance U. Last Chance U is bottom of the barrel, to be honest. There's a reason it's called Last Chance U. It's because all of these guys are trying to get to where I was for 4 years, to be honest. Some of them have either been where I've been and failed and had to go down, or some of them were not good enough or didn't academically qualify out of high school, and that's why they're there to try and get to where I am, or I was, sorry. But that's a tough gig. Like in comparison, we get everything given to us. I get all my meals provided for me. I get all my training room provided for me. I have zero expenses out of pocket. That's not the case with Last Chance U. Anything of what I just said is not the case with Last Chance U.
Well, I read they're actually moving on to basketball programs next, so that'll be an interesting insight into basketball programs. And look, I don't want to get on the political landscape here. That's not my agenda at all. But what is your opinion about the NCAA and players in college getting paid? Like, where does this fit in with again, still your idea of recruitment? And I guess, can you comment on this? Like, it's a big thing that's in the media now, and in Australia we hear about it, and it makes no sense. Like, college players are celebrities. Like, I went to Alabama, and it was an absolutely amazing touring through that university. And I was lucky enough to get a full tour, full guided tour, and I asked the guy, I said, "Oh, what do guys like Jerry Jeudy and Tua Tagovailoa do?" They're like, "Man, they're locked up in their dorm. Just they can't go out of their dorm, because if they go to class, then that's going to interrupt the whole day. They're going to have thousands of people just standing around getting pictures, trying to get their autograph, trying to talk to them." So these guys, why they are celebrities, they're also kind of constrained to living a very complicated life for a young man.
That's a loaded question.
It is. I told you I'd come with some doozies.
Yeah, wow. I can give you my opinion. They're coming out with a rule starting next year where guys can profit off of their name and likeness.
Yeah.
And I think that is long overdue. I can give you an example. We played in 2018. We got on a plane and we flew to the University of Michigan. Okay.
Big house.
The big house. There was 110,549 people in attendance. Okay. It's the biggest stadium on this side of this hemisphere. And there were guys on my team specifically that when they got back on the plane back to Dallas, they didn't have food in the kitchen to eat after the game. And they just played and performed for people that they played in front of 110,000 plus. People paid $100 plus per ticket to watch them play, and they had no food in their fridge at the end of the day. And it's kind of like, how does that work? Yeah. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there.
So, and I'm coming from a mid-major school where like guys are not celebrities like your Tuas or your Jerry Jeudy's or your Johnny Manziel's back when he was at Texas A&M.
You had one big name.
We had Cortland Sutton, which is a big deal. And he we can have a whole conversation about him, but he's the most humble man you've ever met, which speaks to his character. But yeah, it's a crazy ordeal in my mind. I don't think that it's a clear-cut solution as we should just pay the players, because the world of college athletics, like for example, they're talking about canceling football right now.
Yeah, a lot of conferences have cancelled, haven't they?
Because of COVID. And what you're going to find is if that is the reality and football isn't played and those decisions that are currently being made do stand, then every other sport is going to be impacted.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, because the reality of college athletics is that football runs the show. And the reason it runs the show is because they bring in 80% of the revenue for the university. And that's why, like, people are making the argument that like elite basketballers and footballers should be paid. It's because we're looking at it right now of what happens when football doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Everyone else suffers. So
the landscape changes massively, doesn't it?
It does. So I don't think there's a one answer here, but I think at least the start is the name and likeness, and guys should be able to profit off their name and likeness and sell merchandise and sell their fame, which is what they're going to be able to do starting next year. So I think that's very much a step in the right direction. I don't think the system is perfect.
Yeah.
But I think it's not as easy as just clicking your fingers and saying, okay, let's pay them.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great answer. It's nice to get your insight there. And for people back home, I don't think people, like, I've got some friends who are into college football and I love it. We chat about college football, they understand the game, they understand the landscape and all the politics behind it. But just general sport enthusiasts in Melbourne, like AFL is our biggest sport by far. Everyone knows the ins and outs of AFL, but they don't understand how minute the game of AFL is in comparison to college football. Like, college football is bigger than the NFL, in my opinion. Like, it is.
It is.
It is unfathomable the money that's pumped into these programs. Like, it's unbelievable. But let's track back a little bit and let's talk about your college career. So, 39 games, an average of just a tick under 40 yards, 39.9.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, I got you. 64 inside 20s.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about one specific inside 20. I've actually got some vision. September 16, 2017, this was. Now, I remember when you first went over, I said, you know what, Jamie, I'm coming. I'm coming to America. Your first year, I'm coming. I didn't get over there your first year, but your second year I did. And to give a little bit of backstory about the experience, I pretty much got off the plane. I landed in Dallas, and you said, "Oh, go to this house." You gave me an address. So there's an Aussie guy there, and he'll look after you. I'm at the college hotel. I won't see you until tomorrow night. I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll just ride with this, see how it goes," and had an absolute fantastic time. And here's a little footage. This is you lining up in the backfield here. Inside the 2-yard line. What's it like standing there in the backfield when you're in a big stadium, TCU? I can't remember the crowd there that day, but it was still bigger than
50 or so.
Still bigger than most AFL crowds, not at the MCG. How is it knowing that on the other side of your 10 other teammates that are on the field, there's 11 guys wanting to kill you, and you never had a blocked punt? Like,
no, I had none.
No blocked punts. But some of these dudes on the other side of the field, like, you can't comprehend unless you know about football, about college football and American football, how big these dudes are.
They're huge.
Yeah.
I don't think Australians really understand just how large they are.
No, we're not born. We're not bred like them.
I mean, you've got guys that are Buddy Franklin frame, but are 15 kilos heavier and run just as fast. And this is not professional. These are in college. Like, it's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. We played against Michigan a few years ago, and They had a guy, Gary, who's a defensive end, who just got drafted in the first round to Green Bay.
Yep.
And the dude's 6'5",
Rashawn Gary.
285, which is 127, 28 kilos probably, and runs a 4.5, which is it's probably as fast as any dude in the AFL.
Yep. It's crazy. You know what? I got the really awesome experience of watching you guys train when I came down, both times when I came down last year in October and when I came down in 2017. Thank you to the staff at SMU for accommodating that and for you for setting that up. It was amazing to see. Like, I'd been around weight rooms and I'd seen strong guys lift and I'd seen some big guys to what I thought. And when I went out in the field and watched you guys train, I was looking at some of the guys. I'm like, oh yeah, I could ball with these guys. Like, there's some of them are my height and about my build. And then you see the guys that are about 6 foot, 85 kilos, and they can move. They are scary, scary athletes. They are so fast. They get from the 10-yard lines before I can even blink, and they can pretty much jump over my head. And you go, oh, we're just not built like that.
Yeah, part of it is athletic ability. Part of it is the quality of training from a young age, to be honest.
The exposure.
And I think it's strength and conditioning from a young age. And I think that Australian kids don't have that, and it needs to happen earlier. Kids need to realize that strength and conditioning is the single greatest way to improve your body at an early age. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't be doing it at 10, 11, 12, because that's 100%. What guys here are doing.
Yeah.
That's the reality. I mean, I just had a friend drafted to the Baltimore Ravens who's been training competitively. Like he takes training competitively since he was 10 years old.
Yeah. He
just got drafted. It was a 12-year process for him to go professional. And he dedicated his entire craft to refining his body since he was 10. And if you don't really take that process here, you're not going to make it. That's just kind of the reality, unless you're a genetic freak of sorts.
Yeah.
So that's the big takeaway there. Yeah.
And what is training in a college football program like? Like, I'm well aware of it, but just for the listeners, like, give us an insight into two-a-days and give us an insight into the week of a pre-season for college football.
Like camp specifically, or fall camp?
Like fall camp, yeah.
Yeah, I can break it. So I can break it down for you if you like. Like
100%.
Our season starts on the field in September, but it starts in January. Like, there's no such thing as off time for a college footballer. Like, we'll go from winter workouts, which is January through March, and it's 8 weeks of hell. It's you wake up at 5. We woke up at 4:30 every Monday through Friday for 8 weeks. Had to be on the field.
You're still studying during this time?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
4:30 wake ups, workout, and then guess what? Go to class for however many hours a day.
Yep, and have a social life because you're in the off season.
Yeah.
And I took advantage of having a social life in the off season.
You gotta live, 100%.
Yeah, 4:30 had to be on the field at 5 a.m. every single morning, Monday through Friday for 8 weeks, and it's competitive. Everything's a competition here. So we would do drills. We would do a thing called like mat drills. Like, it's pretty similar to what would military workouts would be.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, especially in that first 8 week block, like, guys are lifting heavy, and for reps. Like, this isn't like, we're not power cleaning here. It's like, no, like, they're trying to beef us up.
Yeah.
And then we go into spring ball, which is like training. It's like a mini training camp in the spring. And that's 6 weeks where they still make you work out just as hard, but then, like, in the weight room, that is, but then expect you to practice and hit for 6 weeks. Like, the spring is no fun.
Yeah.
And then we have a summer workout, which they're trying to cut you up a little bit so you can run and you can get your legs under you. And it's pretty hot by that stage. It's probably at least, 30 degrees at 6 a.m. in the morning, or 5, 6 in the morning, which is when we start working out.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, and then training camp hits, which is the 1st of August. And that's thankfully not for me in my position, but everyone else, it's brutal. They're practicing in full pads, which, for you listeners that probably haven't put on pads before, it's like running around with 5 extra kilos on you.
That's how much they weigh, 5 kilos around.
Once you, with your helmet, your pads, your shoulder pads, your pants, everything. It's probably when you're sweating, and it's hot outside. It's probably an extra 5, at least 3. It's a crazy ordeal. They practice for 2.5 hours. They call it like how many periods in practice. I've seen have us up to 28 periods of practice. And guys just hit, no, in a day. 28 periods of practice in a day. And we would practice for every single day for like 6 or 7 days. Then we get one day off where it's not really a day off. You still have to be in the facility from 7 a.m. through 10 p.m. doing meetings.
And recovery.
Like and recovery. That's the thing with camp here. Like they expect you to learn an entire playbook in 3 weeks. And if you don't do it, you don't do it and you don't play. So like this whole environment is competition, and like first and foremost, they'll never apologize for it. So that's just kind of the culture here, but it's you
got to earn everything in sports over there.
Everything. Because someone wants your job at all times. There's 300 and something million people here. So if you don't have it, you'll get run over.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. All right, we're gonna switch gears to some highs and lows throughout your college experience. So first off, let's start at what was the highlight of your college football career? And I know you've had a few. I've witnessed a few.
Sure. Just you want a single moment?
Yeah, what one single moment? Was the fake punt game? Was it the touchdown game?
Yeah, I had a few. Neither of those actually. It's my sophomore year, we went to Cincinnati, which is a really cool stadium, probably 50,000 people, and it was their homecoming game. And we won in overtime. And I also held field goals. And I held for the game-winning field goal, and in front of 50,000, we beat them at their own place, and we stormed the field, and that was really, really special for me to be like in the center of that, kind of being like, oh, if I don't do my job here, like we're no chance of winning the game, and kind of having that pressure on my shoulders was something I thrived on. Like I miss that feeling. I don't miss a whole lot about playing, but like that feeling of being like, okay, no, I have no one else to blame here but myself, and I'm responsible for 150 guys standing behind me. I really loved and thrived off that. That was probably my favorite moment since.
I like that, man. A true team experience, not an individual accolade. It's something that you guys achieved as a team. All right, now we're gonna get a little solemn. What was the low moment of your college playing career?
Oh.
What was the thing that hurt the most, hit the hardest?
Physically? Oh, my junior year, we ran a fake punt against UCF in Florida, which are a good program, really good program.
Yeah.
And I got folded like a chair from a guy who got drafted in the 3rd round to the Cowboys, and he hit me right in the sternum and broke.
What's the name? Drop a name. Who was the man? Do you remember?
Tre'Davious Smith or something like that. I don't know. But he folded me.
Tre'Davious Smith, if you're listening, you're a bad man.
He folded me like a chair.
Yeah.
Broke a rib. And you know when you get so winded that you think you're going to throw up just because you got no air left? That happened for me. That was probably the most physical. I had hip surgery at the end of my junior year just because I couldn't really walk anymore.
Yeah.
My hips kind of busted up. So those are probably the lowlights. But I mean, for the most part, I had the best time of my life, man. It was a blast.
And let's talk about another high of the culture of college football. Is it the traveling to all these towns, stadiums, cities, or is it the camaraderie you have with the team? Like you guys are pretty much a family there.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, it's probably pretty cliche of what guys say, but like you miss the locker room. I don't miss waking up at 5 a.m. to go work out and get screamed at by a strength coach, but I do miss doing it with my friends. You know, like there's something about that makes people closer, of like going through the suck together. And that's what I miss, to be honest. Like I miss all of my best friends seeing him every day. And like
Yeah.
what I'm doing now, like I am my own boss, and like I'm doing it entirely by myself for the most part. So to miss having 100 teammates is what I miss, but like I can't say that I miss like the pressure of not, especially my position is so specialized. Like if I don't hit a perfect spiral, then like I haven't done my job. Like that I don't miss.
Yeah.
So
What about now moving across? It is across the world. Like there's a massive time gap between. It's a very far place. I've flown there myself a couple of times. What was the hardest thing about packing up your life here in Melbourne and just landing at the doorstep of a college football program where you're just another guy, you're just another number. You're pretty much a number on a jersey.
yep. It was tough. It was tough. I was very fortunate that I had a few really close friends that kind of took me in. One of my best friends, I don't know if everyone's watched the movie The Blind Side, but my best friend here,
Everyone knows that movie.
Yeah, his name's SJ2, which is the real life little brother of Michael Orr. So his family, I was very fortunate, kind of took me in because he played on the team as a fifth year when I was a freshman, and was my big brother, and yeah, took me in. And if it wasn't for him, I probably would have had a much harder time. But his family kind of made me feel like I was at home and I was a little bit part of their family, which was really special because I was very lost, to be honest. I've left home at 18 and moved halfway across the world, and if it wasn't for Tom and for SJ, it would have been a different story.
Well, I hope SJ has a view of this, and SJ, thanks for looking after my man out there. Let's again, we'll switch gears up to our friendship. Like, it's pretty crazy. You're 23 next month. Yep, 23 next month. I'm 5 years your senior, but a lot of the time over our friendship, which is now 5 years old plus, I've come to you for advice, and I've sought your advice, and it's funny. You're like the kind of like that little brother. You and Tom are like the little brothers that were a little bit more sensible and level-headed than me. So with our friendship, I guess like there's a lot of firsts. I went to my first college football game, and that's one of my favorite sports now to watch you play. I went to my first baseball game. We went to the Texas Rangers.
With Samuel Hill.
Yeah, with Sammy. Yep. Sammy, I hope you watch this as well, mate. Big shout out to you. Hope everything's going well with your life. How was it having someone like me in your life as a coach at the age of 17, 18 when you were preparing sport?
It was invaluable.
Yeah.
I'd never really spent any time in a weight room. And the philosophies that Australian strength has compared to America is vastly different, to be honest. Yeah. Australian coaches come from an Australian football background. It's highly aerobic, and the specification is towards being an AFL footballer for the most part. And you can't compare the body types. So for you, I was very appreciative that like you realized it and you're like, okay, I can't train him like an Australian football. Like it doesn't work that way. You had to go do your research. Yeah. And you did it. And then what was really cool for me is that I got to compare what I did with you. And to be honest, I was at my strongest probably 2 weeks before I came over.
I remember some of the big loads we hit. Actually, I did.
Yeah, a
squat video and.
Yeah, I've never been the strongest guy in the world, but like we were really making like significant strides just as I was coming over, and I felt really great coming over. And then I actually had I had issues coming here and coming into a weight room in America where they because there's so many guys, they don't give you like the one-on-one treatment that I got with you. And they kind of just they're like, oh, everyone can do everything. I'm like, no, like I can't do everything. I already had hip issues when I was with you, and we probably learnt that I had hip issues from starting to lift. I probably didn't realize that I had them until we started being like, oh, why can't I get down in a squat? Why can't I Olympic lift? It's like, well, because I have these issues.
Yeah.
And I dealt with it throughout my whole college career until the point where I couldn't do it. And really, strength and conditioning here was probably a large reason of why my hip deteriorated, because they kept asking me to do things that I couldn't do. So for you, like, yeah, I mean, we've had hundreds of conversations about like, not issues that I've had here, but like, hey, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Like, why are they making me like put weight on my back when I don't need to be putting weight on my back? My leg needs to be fast. Like, let's call a spade here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not pushing 500 pounds around. There's no reason for it, but my job's over in 1.3 seconds. And really that was my focus. It's like, how can I be explosive? So like towards the end of my career, I was able to Olympic lift, and power clean became like my bread and butter, just because that's what I realized was going to make me powerful and explosive. But putting 180 kilos on my back was not necessary. It still isn't necessary for me.
Yeah.
Whereas for other guys, it may be.
Yeah. And what's a moment in our friendship that there's a lot for me? Like, you've always been a calming influence in my life, and you know the personality type I am. I can never sit still in life, and I have a lot of crazy ideas, and I call my mother my hit of reality, because I'll tell mum what are my ideas, and she goes, Jared, what are you doing? Like, slow down. Why don't you focus on what you're doing? And a lot of the time I've come to you with ideas, and you've always given me a differing point of view to look at it. You've always looked at things from the business side of things, and how to market myself, and how to project myself, and it's been invaluable for me in our friendship. But like the probably the biggest thing that stands out for me in our friendship was when we went to College Station. Like, that moment will live with me forever. Like, going to see my favorite team, Alabama, play football in one of the biggest stadiums. Like, we road tripped there. It was a special moment. Like, so for me, that's the big highlight of many highlights of our friendship. What about you? Is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, dude, the fact that you wanted to come out and visit me, I was baffled with. Like, coming over, I realized, oh wow, that's a long flight. Like, that's a big commitment to come over, and it's an expensive operation. So like, the fact that you wanted to come over twice and you took such keen interest in what I was doing here, like, that was it for me. Like, that was enough. For any of my friends to come over and visit me halfway across the world, like, I'm incredibly grateful. So still to this day. So, I mean, if COVID wasn't happening right now, like, I had 5 or 6 friends that were scheduled to come over this year alone, which like, I can't thank them enough. Cause like, for your listeners, like, I moved away at 18 and I haven't come back for the most part. I haven't been home in almost 2 years. So yeah, it's not that
2 years. As we went to the cricket last time you were here.
Yeah, I haven't been home since December 2018. So yeah, it's been a minute.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into our last couple topics, and I guess the question would be, what's the next 5 years look like for Jamie Sackville and athletes in recruitment? Are we ever getting you back? Are you coming back to Melbourne anytime soon? Dallas now your home city? Like,
oh, that's a big. Yeah, I can answer it. Is Melbourne getting me back? Not for a while is the answer. My whole mindset when I came over here was, there's 0 point in me coming here and getting a degree, and then as soon as I get my degree and the network that I've built, and then just fly halfway across the world and actually be 4 years behind in Melbourne. That didn't make any sense to me. Why would I put in all this work here and develop all these relationships and then just throw them away? So that the answer to that question is no. I'm here until I feel in my mind that I've made it from a business sense, and we've had success here. That's when I can reassess and be like, okay, where do I want to live? Whether it be in this country, whether it be in Australia, whether it be in another country altogether. But I'm here for the long haul, I think. Especially in my business.
I did
in my business as well.
All right. Now, the name of my podcast, Ramble On, comes from inspiration of I guess my innate ability to just talk and talk and talk and talk. Like when I get going, I just can't stop. So I thought, ramble on. And I've been listening to a lot of 60s music lately. I've been really heavy into the 60s music, Pink Floyd, Rolling Stones, but Led Zeppelin. I know they're a 1968 band, so they're a bit later in the 60s, but I still claim it as 60s, 70s. They were the inspiration for Ramble On. That song, I played it when you entered the room this morning for you. What is your favorite 60s band and why?
This is a great question. I'm glad you asked this one. I, by my own admission, haven't been exposed to the 60s genre as much as I would have liked. But hear me out.
With the youth today, man. I know you're only 5 years younger than me, but you're the 60s.
Hear me out.
All right.
For this podcast, I called my old man because he's born and raised in the 60s. And I said, what is your favorite 60s band? And he said, there's only one, there's only ever been one, and it's the Beatles.
Ah, the Beatles. Yeah.
So my answer is the Beatles. And if I am being honest, I am a big Beatles fan.
All right.
I watched the James Corden Carpool Karaoke with McCartney and got a real kick out of that one. So
well, that leads me into my next question. Have you got a little 10-second snippet of a Beatles song for us? Like any rendition? Like,
you are throwing me. Yeah. I don't have the pipes for that.
Yeah, I know. I tell you what, I'm the worst. I'm a bad singer, and I know a couple singers worse than me. My housemate, Jamie Smith, he
this Jamie right here.
he is worse than me, and he sings all the time, and he doesn't give one iota of a care. But this is going to be a theme along the podcast. I want everyone to give a little 10-second snippet of a Beatles song. Surely you've got one in the back of your mind.
Oh, you are throwing me under the bus.
I love it.
Oh, let it be.
Classic.
Let it be. Let it be. Oh, let it be. Singing words of wisdom. Let it be. Let it be. That's all I got for you.
Mate, that was terrific.
Oh, stop it.
I hope everyone can just bang on the spot like that. Future guests, you better come ready.
You heard it here first.
Absolutely. That was all right. The Beatles, they get one mark in my little
yeah,
score.
Put it on the tally. We need to put a little tally at the top of the screen there.
Absolutely. I'm going to get a tally. The Beatles, you get it 1 mark up there. And now my next question, it leads me into this. And I was hoping to get the Jamie Sackville jersey out, but it's at my mum's house. It's sitting there waiting to get framed. One day it's going on my wall in my gym that I'm looking to open soon. But I've got the next closest thing to the white jersey SMU I got my New York jersey on, my Saquon Barkley. I'm a big Giants fan. The Giants were a deplorable team. Also a St Kilda fan. And you're a big Saints man.
Massive Saints man. Unapologetically.
Yeah, a big one. And look, the Saints have had some rough years recently, but we're on the up. How many Saints games do you catch? Do you get to watch any?
I try and watch every single one. When I was a young fella, my old man took me to every single game, and I'm talking 2004, 2005, like that period, 2004 through 2011, we were red hot for 6 or 7 years there.
Yeah, we were.
And I went to the grannies and cried on all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I was so convinced as a young kid that if I didn't go to the game, we lost, because it happened one time. So I was like, that's it. I'm never not going to a game. And my old man had a season membership. So like every game through 2004 through 2011, I was there without fail. Every home game.
True fan. I let St Kilda down for a long time, and I am dirty at myself, but training a lot of talented young footballers who went into the AFL, and St Kilda breaking my heart, losing a grand final to Collingwood, which is a team I grew up despising. I grew up despising Collingwood, and now I'm wearing bloody Collingwood shorts because Tom Wilson's playing there. And
you hate to see that.
You do as a Saints fan, but I started just enjoying the game of AFL and watching it and watching these young guys play and waking up at crazy hours of the morning, watching you play on ESPN. That's always been the biggest kick for me, going, look at this guy. He's on TV playing sport, doing what he loves. And that was my biggest ambition as a junior. But let's revert back to the Saints and we'll bring up our golden boy, Maxi King, our golden boy. If Maxi King was over in America, what position would he play on the football field?
How heavy is Max?
Yeah, I tell you what, he's beefing up. He is beefing up, Maxi. I reckon he'd be about 92-ish kilos. Maxi, I hope you're listening to this, mate, and Ben as well. If I got 92 kilos wrong, I'm sorry. You are looking a bit heavier. I'm going to say 94 kilos.
Yeah. He played receiver. I mean, honestly, that's still not – I mean, not that isn't heavy. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But, like, comparison to here, like, they're still very long frames, both of them.
Yeah, they're 202 and they're fast. Those
big boys. They're big boys. So, like, I would put them outside. You probably want to beef them up a little more, to be honest.
Yeah.
So they don't get beaten around. But I would say wide receiver.
It's crazy to think, and you would have seen some of the highlights and Maxi bobbing up, kicking 3 or 4 the other week, and you look at some of these athletic types, these centre half forwards like your Hipwoods and your centre half backs like your Harris Andrews and Darcy Moore, these 200 centimetre guys who are super athletes, and you go, wow, hey, these guys are crazy. The King twins, they are probably the phenoms of athleticism in the AFL at the moment, the things they can do. I'll pose another question to you. If I was an American child, what position would I play with my skill set? You've seen me throw a ball and catch a ball? Remember that catch I took in the
you play on defense.
Special teams.
I reckon you could light your head on fire and run down. Yeah, wow, that's rude.
Tell you what, this is all the rage in the AFL at the moment. Every second bloke. Dan Butler, the Saints.
He's a talent.
He's repping this big time.
I think you could play linebacker. Is my
linebacker.
I reckon if we put some weight on you,
I'd need to add 15 plus, 15 kilos, easy.
Yeah, but I think you hit hard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well.
Okay, let me rephrase. How about this? I think you got good break. You got side to side speed. Yeah. I think you got good eyes for the most part. Safety is the quarterback of the defense.
Beauty. Yeah, I like that.
I think we could put you in the backfield and read the quarterback's eyes and go from there.
All right, let's. I'm losing track here. I'm jumping around a bit, but let's talk about your app again, athletes and recruitment. I'm hypothetical. I'm 16 years old. I'm this size. I want to be a safety. I'm putting my qualities up. What kind of things am I putting on this app that coaches are looking at? And do you think this could be utilized within the AFL system as well?
Yeah. Okay. From an American standpoint, firstly,
let's go that. Yeah.
Kids, coaches want to see your athletic ability. They want to see your academic ability. And they want to see what type of character you are.
Mm.
So what we're creating here is the ability to show all three. Your athletic ability, you're going to have the ability to show your own film of you playing in high school, or whether it could just be your training film, whatever it may be that shows your athletic ability or athletic potential. From an academic standpoint, it's very different here in America compared to what it is in Australia. In Australia, like, in theory, you can be a terrible student for grades 9 through 11, and then in year 12, just decide to switch it on.
Mm.
And then in theory, go to an excellent university and become whatever you want, if you do well enough in year 12.
Yeah.
Here, you have to do everything from grades 9 through 12. You can't just be a terrible student grade 9, 10, and 11 and turn it on in year 12. You won't make it to college. You'll be academically ineligible.
Yeah, right.
So you
end up at last chance you kind of operation.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
You're not just going to get away with just being a really talented athlete. They don't care. And the reason for that is so many guys think that they're really talented athletically, but as most of us know, your athletic ability will fade. But if you don't have anything in your brain at the end of the day, then you're going to really struggle.
Mm.
So the academic part of it is huge, like absolutely critical. And then the third part, your character is huge here. You'll probably hear it a lot with coming from American voices and things of that nature. But like, if you're not a good person, it's gonna be really, really hard to have longevity in whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And the way that I'm kind of looking at it is a college scholarship. College coaches are making an investment in you, a really significant one, because if you fail, they lose their job.
Yeah.
If you succeed, they get promoted.
It's a cutthroat industry, right?
Cutthroat. So it's a massive deal to offer a kid a scholarship and for them to accept it and to bring them into their family. It's a really big deal. So like, and it's probably a concept that isn't too common to probably the listeners out there because it's a different world. But in the AFL world, I mean, it'd be an extension of a scouting department, to be honest. Every kid would be able to have the ability to promote themselves. Now, again, the onus would be on the pro scouts to be like, oh, do I want X, Y, and Z? But at least to give the voice to the 16-year-old junior playing Aussie football, Aussie rules. There's no harm in having kids that can be like, hey, I can do X, Y, and Z. I play centre half forward, but like I'm really developing, and write a little bio about you, and you can put a little clip up of you taking a specky, and like there's nothing wrong with that, and having the ability to promote yourself. I think it's a cultural thing as well. In Australia, guys are very humble, and it's not by any fault of their own. But here, if you're too humble and you don't promote yourself, you will not get seen. It's too competitive here to not do it. You can't just wait for people to find you here. So those are probably like the two biggest cultural differences. You have to be able to promote yourself and be a marketing person here. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, man. Look, when you first told me about this concept, this idea you had, it kind of blew me away. I was just the scope of it is so big. It's for one of the biggest sports in America. Like it's incredible, and like hats off to you. It's gonna be something really big, and I can't wait for people to see your success, because I think a lot of success is coming your way, and it's purely off the back of an awesome brain in your head, like a wonderful mind, but also hard work. Like you've always been super driven. From the 17-year-old I had in front of me who was just standing there telling me, hey, train me, and I'm going to work my ass off, and I'm going to get there and play college football, and I'm going to be a guy. And then all of a sudden, look at the man you've turned into. You have come up with this company, this business. You're running your own business at 22. That is, the potential is, I'm not even going to put a quantity on the potential. Like it's too big. I can't wait to see the ride. And I've been lucky enough to be a part of the ride so far. I am hoping that my hoodie will land one day.
They're in the shop right now. They're being designed and being manufactured. So
I love that, man. I'm always going to be one of your biggest fans, like you are for me. Like you've always been there for me. A big part of me designing the Sixth Principle. Like the Sixth Principle came off the back of coaching guys like you. Like you trusting me to come up with a program when I was fresh. Like I was still at uni. I was straight into my job going, oh, this may work. Like, so this friendship, I value it so much. And I look forward to getting over to Dallas again. If that's where you still are, that's definitely in the works for me.
Yeah, it'll be here, Austin or San Francisco. So one of the three.
I like Austin a lot. San Francisco, I'm not sold on, but I can understand.
It's the tech capital of the world, and that's kind of where I'm headed. So
correct. I can understand that. So I'm gonna finish off with my last two questions. I'm gonna give you the one you can have a little thought about first, and is, do you have a question for me? Like I've been asking all the questions so far. And then my second question, because I'm gonna have two tallies. It's the favorite 60s band, and it's the NFL team that you support.
Oh, I'll answer the first one. The second one first.
Okay.
I didn't have a team before I moved here. One of my
Mhm.
best friends was a big Saints fan back home, like New Orleans Saints. I decided that whatever city I go to is the team I'm going to support. So I guess that makes me a Cowboys fan. But if
We're
I'm being,
enemies, man. That's
I know we're
killing
enemies.
me.
But just like you said, you really enjoy watching like your friends and your guys play AFL footy right now. I'm the same now because
Yeah.
I've got a few mates that play for the Broncos. One of my best friends punts for the Seahawks, the Ravens, the Redskins, the Rams. Like I just support my friends now.
I tell you what, that guy who plays for the Seahawks.
Yeah, he's a baller. He can
He
go.
he is unbelievable.
Yeah, he's got more talent in his right leg than I do in my whole body. So
How many Australian punters have we got in the league at the moment? 4 or 5. Is Berry
5.
still around? Dixon,
Yeah.
Berry. We've got
Dixon, Berry, Cam Johnson of the Eagles.
and the guy at San Fran, the 49ers.
Yeah, Mitch Wisnowski at
Yeah.
the 49ers, and then Aaron Sipos is with the
Our man
is with
Aaron
the Lions
Sipos,
right now.
a Saints
Yeah.
man,
Saints
absolutely.
fan through and through. So he's trying to make a team right now. I hope he does.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure what their situation is, but yeah, it's tough at the moment with the world that we're living in. If you haven't played yet, it's going to be much tougher than every other year to actually make a team. I guess my question for you, okay, yeah, okay, based on the information that you've learned from me and from any other guy that's come over here, if an 18-year-old kid walked into your gym tomorrow that was trying to do exactly what I did, or play another sport, but wanted to come and train, get their body right for 12 months to come over to America, what advice would you give them?
Well, look, good question. I've actually got a fantastic example because I've got a young woman, Grace Norbury. I hope she watches this as well. Grace, I'm going to send you a link. She got a scholarship over to Alabama State to play soccer.
Awesome.
Absolutely incredible. She'd been working so hard for this, and I started training her younger brother because her younger brother, a talented soccer player as well, he had ambitions to take his soccer further. But then she came on board and started training with me. And very quiet, very modest individual, a self-doubter, which is crazy because she's an athletic powerhouse now.
Yeah.
But I just said to her the whole time, like, all right, you want to get to this goal, just make sure that you're putting in the work and ticking everything off. Like, do the recovery, make sure you're sleeping, get your training in, don't overtrain. I think that's the big thing for me with young kids is, all right, yes, work hard, try to get to the absolute best and be the best athlete you can and practice your skill set as well, but don't overdo it. And I think coming up when I was young, I overdid it. Like when I was 17, I was playing school footy. I was playing under 19s footy after school footy. And then I was playing under 17s footy on the week. I was playing 3 games of football, like up to 10, 11, 12 quarters of football. And if you listen to that now, everyone will be like, you just can't do that. Like that might happen in country Victoria, but you can't do that. That's way too much. It's overload. It's stupid. It leads to injuries, and it led to injuries for me. And it might not have been from that. It might have been structural issues like you had with your hips. But I guess it's make sure you put in the work and make sure you keep turning up. Even on the bad days you have, don't let them get you down, and don't let that self-doubt get into your mind. Like have your networks, build your networks. Like you've always been a really open person. I'm quite an open person as well. Like communicate with people as a young athlete. I think that's the really big thing, because there's a lot of pressure on you as a 17 and an 18-year-old trying to get somewhere. Like you are so young, and funny enough, I'm pretty sure you did do this, but when I was 18, I was like, oh man, when I turn 19, I'm getting out of home. I'm moving out. I'm going to be really independent, do all this stuff. And then I'm at 24 sitting at home going, man, the world's a scary place. Mum cooks me dinner. I love this. Moving out of home would be kind of, that's the unknown. Like this is scary. And you think when you're 17 that all this stuff's going to happen so quickly, but you're still really a child.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't really mature, especially as males. We don't really mature to what it took me probably till earlier this year. But it's build those networks.
Yeah.
And confide in people. Like, yeah, I think that's the big thing. Don't try to do it all on your own. Um, and I take a last chance you example here, that Malik Henry guy in season 3. He was one of those people who lived in his head too much. All the talent in the world, but lived in his head too much. And I guess to wrap up the question that you asked is, don't try to do it by yourself. Like, there's people around to help you. There's people who want to be a part of the process. All right. Don't involve yourself with people who are going to try to claim your success, because the success is yours, but there's going to be people that are going to help get you to where you want to be in life and get you towards your goals. Because as a coach, for me, that's the rewarding part of my job. Like, seeing people succeed goals. Like, for that, I could do that as a job for the next, I will do it for the next 30, 40 years. I love it. So I guess that's my answer for you.
That's awesome, man. I mean, you can claim all my success.
Never. Man, you've lived a life already that people couldn't even imagine here in Melbourne. 22, you've played college sport in some of the biggest stadiums in the world. You're an entrepreneur, you're a businessman. Thank you so much for being the first guest on the Ramble On podcast. I have ambitions for this podcast to be massive. I've always wanted to do this, and I always wanted
to be the biggest in the world.
Yeah, why not, man? Don't
straight to the moon. Man.
Dream big, hey, dream big. But I've always wanted you as the first guest. As soon as this idea came into my head, I was like, the first guest is Jamie, man. Jamie Sackler is going to be my first guest, because I knew it'd be an amazing conversation. I've had so much fun here. I love you, man. Thanks for being a part of it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see where we take our lives, hey?
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I've loved it.
See you, mate.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.